Welcome to our new theme, new month, and we are going to be talking this month about hormones. I'm feeling a little hormonal about this month, I have to say, and I am very grateful to have Melanie, as she is such an expert in all of these areas, and she can get a little sciencey. And I'm thinking about myself, who is more like, keep it in like layman's terms. So we're gonna have a little fun. I'm gonna maybe interview Mel and see if she can answer some questions that in a way that I can understand, right?
Right. We'll see what we can do.
We'll see how we do it.
We'll
Okay.
see.
So in a nutshell, can you just, what's an overview? Can you give the definition of hormones, Mel?
So hormones are chemical messengers produced in all of the various glands we have in our bodies, and they help with everything else. So like if you look at the chemical makeup of your body, it's daunting and it's miraculous and it's amazing. So the stuff that has to occur and the things that have to be in the right place, it's pretty spectacular that anything functions at any time, quite frankly. But hormones are really key to that. So that is how they get around, and I'll just read you what it says here, that they send information to all organ systems of the body to relay messages and exert specific actions on our tissues, right? Which is super important. And this whole system that includes the hormones and such, we call that the endocrine system.
The endocrine system, right. Got you. So we're going to keep this simple, and I have to say, like, going over some of the material with you, Mel, like I was overwhelmed, and I'm like, this could be a whole program in itself. This could be not a month. This could be a year.
Definitely.
This could be its own coaching, system. So based on that, knowing that, we're going to have to sort of cut it back to things that we think are kind of more relevant as we age in this midlife stage that we're going through. So, okay, first question. What would some of the symptoms we would see that are, hormonal symptoms?
Okay, so again, that can be really so many things. They can really overlap with so many other symptoms, but that could include things like acne, skin tags, breast tenderness, vaginal dryness, irregular menstruation, fatigue, bone density, darkening of the skin, armpits, groin, etc., water retention, mood swings, excessive crying, sadness, headaches, oily skin, dry skin, changes in your voice, joint pain, painful or heavy periods, no periods, weight gain, mood swings, depression, insomnia, sleep disturbances, low energy, brain fog, memory issues, night sweats, and changes in libido, to name a few.
Let's go back. That sounds an awful lot like one of those commercials, right? Where like you can take this brand new product that we brought to market, but it may cause some side effects, right? It's like shoop, 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 shoop. Okay, so let's go back. You were talking about, you said acne, skin tags. So these are more like skin related.
Right, so acne and skin tags. So acne is obviously from an excessive amount of oil that happens in your system that isn't self-regulating anymore. Skin tags can be, again, the growth of a particular area of skin, and that can also often be caused by insulin dysregulation. So when you start to have really big spikes regularly in your insulin, and your body isn't able to regulate it very, very easily, that can cause a lot of these skin tags. So if you're noticing that, like a lot of people who drink too much, because that's a very big spike in your system.
Drink too much alcohol, you mean?
Correct. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I drink a lot of water. I'm good. Okay.
You're good. That can be overdone too, but that's a whole different thing.
Okay, going down this list now in a slower fashion, you said breast tenderness, vaginal dryness. So these are some things that might affect us as well as we age, right?
Right. So that can be, again, that could, like breast tenderness can come from, a lot of women have issues with tenderness of the breasts in their monthly cycle, right? So that again is showing you, because obviously that is obvious hormonal cycles that we go through. And so that's showing you that you might have some excess estrogen. A lot of PCOS can be associated there or paralleled with that sort of thing, and heavy or irregular menstruation, different things that can happen there. Vaginal dryness that can come in various times as well, but in perimenopause, menopause, etc., because you're not having the same amount of even testosterone, because that can have to do with your libido, right? So those are all in ratios too. So why don't we talk about that a little bit about so main go up a little bit more. Main hormones are like examples of those are going to be things like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone.
Yeah.
Other things like LH, luteinizing hormone, FSH is follicle stimulating hormone. We got oxytocin, vasopressin, DHEA. Like there's tons and tons of hormones.
Whoa.
But the main ones, the main ones that most people have definitely heard of are going to be the ones that women cycle through like every month.
And I was going to ask you, can we break it down to like estrogen? We hear all the time estrogen, right? And then there's the progesterone. Testosterone I usually think of is for men. So how does that play a factor?
Well, we all have all three of these. Men obviously have more testosterone than they do the estrogen. But for example, in women, we have it sort of in ratios. So there is a happy ratio approximately for each person or for each woman, for women in general. And as we get older, or if we're having imbalances, then we might have too much estrogen, for example, and therefore our progesterone is low in comparison to our high estrogen, right? So if we're retaining estrogen, if we're getting estrogen, we're not able to get estrogens out of our body because our liver is sludgy and not working efficiently, or we're just having we have plastics in our house, we have too much coming in and our body can't process it properly, then it throws our ratio out of balance. Testosterone can become out of balance as well, so you might end up getting, hair where you don't want it, like men, on your chin, or different areas that are not normal for women in the same way. And you might start losing your hair a little bit in like the male pattern baldness areas. It might thin a bit there if your testosterone is out of whack. So again, so the estrogen, progesterone for women, progesterone is sort of like estrogen makes us curvy. It makes us women,
So feminine.
Right.
Yeah.
And the estrogen or the testosterone is more for your
strength,
your get up and go, your what's another good example of that?
Like your power. Find your power.
Yeah, it's literally muscular strength as well. So those are responsible for those things, but if they're out of whack, then obviously that causes an issue. Progesterone is kind of your happier hormone. So that if you're low on that, or as we become low on that, or as our ratios shift out of whack of that, then we might become a little bit, depressed or a little sadder, right? A lot of times the postpartum stuff can come from that kind of thing. So it's really, you have to look at, is it the ratio off? Is it just that we're too low in something?
So would a ratio off also maybe put us into a mood swing as well? Like, is that what's happening there?
And again, the bigger transition, like in our cycles, as our hormones are cycling right through our ovulation, that is why some women have higher mood swings. And again, that can be just because they're going too far out of whack during the month, because it doesn't have to be that obvious or that extreme for everybody if your ratio is in a pretty good balance.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, we also had a guest speaker, and they were talking about, taking a hair follicle, right? And testing your mineral and hormone balancing through that process. That's something that you recommend, is sort of keeping on top of that.
Yeah, well, I find that's a very interesting assessment tool for sure. Generally, you want to do more of an assessment with your taking urine sample. Actually, you can, I'm trying to think of the actual test. It's called a Dutch test. So you can take a hormone sample that way, and it's a specific type of testing. They send you a kit, blah, blah, blah. So that's a really good one too, just for those particular for those particular hormones, and it would be more immediate versus the hair follicle is going to tell you what's been happening as a pattern over the last while. Dutch test is going to tell you what is happening right now. So,
okay. And I'm very excited to find out some solutions, but that we're going to save for week 3 because we always do our tips and tools.
Exactly.
But maybe you can tell us a little bit about some of the causes. Like, why is our body doing this? Like, what's causing this to happen?
Well, again, that can be a number of things. It can be metabolically related. It can be what you're putting in your body, what you're putting on your body. All the things we talk about just generally, they do all cycle. Everything is connected, right? We're not just a heart, and we're not just skin, and we're not just a brain. Everything works in cohesion. So whatever's affecting one part is going to affect another part in a different way, and then it's going to affect something else, because that being out affects this and this and this and this. It's like when your foot is sore or your knee is sore, well, then your hip might shift out of balance, and then your spine is going to go out of whack, and then your neck is going to be off, and so it's trickles, in this case trickles up, because you're standing on your lower half all the time. But it's a trickle down effect, if you would. So it impacts everything on the way. Does that answer your question, or do you want to go a bit deeper?
It can be, well, if you want to go a little bit deeper into maybe the endocrine system in that sense, like.
Okay, well, that's where we would get really sciencey. I don't know if we're leaving some of that for week 2 or.
Yeah, I think week 2 would be nice if we break down maybe the top 5, and then we can like coach through that.
Okay.
Just for something a little bit different. Okay. But
so what can come from all of these hormonal issues? You might get things like PCOS, right? You might have polycystic ovarian syndrome. So that's a very female issue when you have, again, it's estrogen imbalance, really.
Okay.
Then you might have insulin dysregulation, and that can be from, again, an imbalance. So that really puts a lot of weight on the pancreas and the liver, and the kidneys eventually as well. But that comes from, eating, either gorging in a meal, eating lots of sugars, and a lot of things that would turn into sugars in your body, not moving and using this energy. So metabolic dysfunctions would come, they're all hand in hand with insulin dysregulation, right?
I'm just curious, like, how does that change too as we age? Because say you grew up and you could handle eating a lot of sugary food, for example, and then as you
handle it,
I don't know, like, you just didn't seem to have the effects that you're feeling now as you age. So, is that part of your hormones that are like not helping you? You know what I mean? Like, now the effects are more severe. I would say.
So let's the analogy I like to bring in for that is, you have, say, a bowl or a cup of water, right? So now you're having Twinkies. There's a bunch of drops going in that cup.
You lost me at Twinkie. Could we not have done something with chocolate?
Then you're having chocolate. There's a few drops in there. Then you're having a sugary Starbucks drink. There's a few drops in there. Then you're having a big giant fried donut. There's a few drops more in there. So you're adding drops every time. You're having all kinds of things. It's adding into this vessel, right? At some point, the vessel, it's going to be that. So now it's hitting that top, the surfactant level of the water. As soon as you put a few more drops in, it's going to spill over that cup, right? So your cup runneth over at that point.
I was just thinking.
But not in a good way, because now your body's like, oh, it wasn't able to take enough out of that cup to keep itself balanced. And that happens as so now you're thinking you're a teenager or you're a child and you're adding into that cup. Well, it hasn't had a lot of years of stuff to pull out of it yet at that point, right? So now you're 18, 20, 30, whatever. Now you're adding alcohol into that cup. First of all, that wasn't something you did likely when you were younger either. Maybe you're smoking. Maybe you're adding drugs or prescription drugs, all these kind of things. Now you've been living in a home and you don't air it out, and you're smelling the toxins from your furniture, your rugs, you're like all of this stuff. You're using bleach in your house. You're using chemical cleaners. You're putting stuff on your skin for ages. and you're not helping the body to detoxify regularly, but you're just keep adding all this layers of things, levels of toxins that it has to try to get rid of, right? So that I think we had this discussion at some point about how your liver is going to try and help you. It has two phases. It's going to help try and detoxify you regularly. It has like one of the biggest jobs in the body. So it's constantly working, just la 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 la. This is what I do. Taking out the toxins, Now you're having a party night and you had like a bottle of wine. Now it's like, it has to stop. Put on the brakes with all of the regular detoxifying that it does. And now it has to totally detox just the alcohol, because it's got to get that out of the system. Alcohol is quite toxic, right? So it has to detoxify only the alcohol now to get it completely gone. And all of this stuff is still dripping on, right? So it's still building up. And now we've slowed that normal detoxification process down. And if we do that kind of stuff regularly, not just alcohol, but all the other added things, then it's slowing down. So lack of proper sleep, smoking, stress, like all of these things are going to stop the regular process of detoxification and add to the liver's burden, right? So now we're backing up. So now we're not 15 anymore, and we've added extra things on there, and we've had a whole lifetime of all stress and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And now it backs up, right? So now it causes us, it's sludgy, it's not working as strongly, as quickly, as efficiently. Right. It's got way more to deal with now. Our environment is not becoming a whole lot less toxic, generally speaking. So it just backs up the cycle in general. So you can come with all kinds of things like thyroid issues, hirsutism, which is hair in odd places, like my dog has hair in an odd place on her eyeball.
Weird.
Primary ovarian insufficiencies, where your ovaries stop working before 40, which is sort of more of a normal time between 40 and 50. All kinds of things that can, these are the causes. These are the issues that can happen from long-term hormone imbalances, right? Trouble getting pregnant can be a hormone imbalance as well. Toxic load, et cetera, which all cause the
fertility and
fertility
stuff like
issues.
that.
And there are things that can help you, like in the Chinese medicine side. If you, for example, if you don't sleep well during certain hours, so between 11 and 1 o'clock, hopefully you're in bed by 11, first of all. And secondly, between 11 and 1, if you're waking up generally regularly during that time, you might have issues with your gallbladder. If you're waking up between 1 and 3, it's usually issues with your liver, or these are the times when those organs are trying to regenerate and trying to do their thing in the body processes while you're sleeping, right? Because while we sleep, the body's trying to regenerate a lot. So at those hours, those are the organs being affected. 3 to 5 is more intestinal, air. So that can go into Ayurveda as well. So that goes into the different functions. But anyway, so that gives you an idea of how they look at your organ, your big organ.
Through Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
Right. So. Yeah, because there are lots of different sort of, worldly, rules of thought of how to treat some of these, which, again, we might even be able to touch upon a little bit in tips and tools as far as like, I don't like to call that solutions, because everyone's, what works for one might not work for another, but that's why tips and tools and things that can maybe help us through these symptoms.
And there's so much education you can get on your body in general, and you live with your body, remember that. So you always want to get outside advice and education, and talk to your doctor before starting anything, of course.
Oh yes, there's our...
say that.
Yeah, disclaimer.
Disclaimer alert, disclaimer. You are the only one who truly knows your body, and you have to learn to live with it, literally and figuratively. Like, you have to realize when your body's expressing something to you and say, okay, now cycle back, what has happened, what has changed, what's going on, right? So that you can
being aware, right?
Being aware and responsible for your for your vessel here, your skin suit, your meat suit, as they call it, from a spiritual point of view, right?
Yeah.
So we're here on this journey, and this is what you've got to work with.
And I like that you say being responsible, because they always say like honor your temple, right? This
exactly,
is your temple.
that's part of it.
Yeah, it is taking responsibility.
So I know there are spiritual people that I talk to who are like, oh, well, this is just a thing and I don't care, I'll put whatever. Like, yeah, but this is the thing that's supposed to keep you here to do the thing you're supposed to do, right? So if it's in a better shape, then you're gonna be allowed to do that.
Your human experience will be enhanced with better health and a physical shell.
If you're worried, if you have pains and aches and all this other stuff to worry about, then your spiritual path isn't going to be as easily fulfilled, right?
Yeah. Oh, so it all connects. Oh my goodness. Awesome. Okay. Well, I want to maybe wrap it up there, because I do love how, I mean, you've just said it all connects, right? So the hormones, we have the physical, definitely the circle of life. We definitely have the emotional, right? And the mental. But yes, it does connect spiritually as well. So that's a nice way to wrap things up, I think.
All right.
And I think next week we can jump into maybe like the top 5 ways that, you know, these hormones can really affect us in a sort of physical and emotional way. So perfecto. And if again, as Mel said, there's so much to explore. You can always jump online to find out more. If you're finding that it's really interesting for you, if you want to be very specific to you and your body, hiring a health coach, you can always book a one-on-one with Mel, or look for that sort of more specific information with the testing and stuff for yourself. So all right,
awesome.
Sounds good. We will see you guys next week. Bye. Thanks, Mel.
Welcome. Hope it was informative.
It was.
Not too painful.
Always ask an expert. There you go.